Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Psychedelic Treatment Podcast with your host, John Giordano. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones, and just want to take this opportunity to say, everybody, Happy New Year. I hope we're going into 2024 with health and happiness and everything else. John, how was your new year, and what are you looking forward to this year? What would you like to see happen this year?
Well, what I like to see, what I'm focused on, is how to improve treatment outcomes for addiction and mental health.
That would be great. I mean, shouldn't that have been a focus all along for everybody?
Was, but I got it. On,
well, not just for you though.
But I got it on steroids.
Does the I mean, without pointing fingers, and you know, there's a lot of good people out there doing good work, but is there a stagnation in the industry where they're not looking forward?
No, it's a 70-year-old model, and we're not using science and evidence-based models because the insurance company refuses to pay for it. But there are other ways to do it, like I did with G&G Holistic Addiction Treatment Program that I had. We did hyperbarics, we did micronutrient testing, we did gut testing, we did hair analysis for heavy metals, we did massage, lymphatic, to get the drugs out of the body on a cellular level, light therapy, sound therapy, neurofeedback. We did a lot of different things that most people are not doing. We took them to the gym. We had a spiritual program, non-denominational. The bottom line is we're a system. We're not just a head walking around. And now, you know, I'm one of the leading experts also on psychedelics. And I've been doing that since 1996 with a Dr. Deborah Mash, utilizing Ibogaine, which is a substance that actually detoxes heroin addicts and alcoholics 24 hours, and also brings them back into the childhood to make it simple as an adult, and they can have resolution for their traumas, and they come out wanting recovery and no cravings and very small amount of detox problems that people have. Nothing.
And we're talking about like addictions, mental health as well. It all hand in hand.
Addiction. Most addicts, if not almost all addicts, have a mental health issue. They suffer from depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, bipolar disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder.
Now we're here to supply a lot of information to you, and the best way for this information to get anywhere is for you to share it. So please like this program, share it. If you want more information, John's website is on there, johnjgiordano.com. It's right there on the screen.
That's the letter J now, not J-A-Y.
So please check that out, get some more information. And also just to be, if you are feeling very physically ill or are in fear, like you suicidal at this, go to immediately to get help.
Absolutely.
You could research, but first go get immediate care. Go to a doctor, go to a hospital, go right away. But then find out where your long-term solution is going to be. And it could be something we're going to talk about today. So that brings in our guest, John. This is Chris Labonte, who is, first of all, let's thank him. He's a military veteran. He served in our American military. He came out of there and went into real estate investing and did well there. But now he's into investing into people and ideas. And I like that.
And that's how we met, Chris and I.
There we go. So let's bring him in right now. And Chris, first of all, Happy New Year, and thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Thanks, John. I appreciate you guys. And
absolutely, we appreciate you, Scotty. I mean,
hey, it was my pleasure. It was something we always kind of struggle with, veterans, how to handle, being thanked for that. And somebody not too long ago gave me the suggestion to say, you guys were worth it. So thank you guys for being the incredible American patriots, American citizens that you are, and making what I did worth it.
Well, as you know, Chris, I work with our military for trauma, PTSD, and our police officers have been in shootings and that kind of stuff. I've worked with all of that in the past. And, there's hope now that we finally, the VA and everybody's starting to look at psychedelic medicine, okay, as for treatment-resistant depression and anxiety. So, I mean, that's going to be that's been a lifesaver so far for a lot of people. You want to talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit, Chris? Some of the stuff that you know, or
Oh man, I could go on VA and military medical treatment for days. The VA has come a long way over the years. I will say that they knew back in the 80s. There's a great book on it. The body keeps the score. But the VA did studies and knew way back then that the kind of talk therapy treatment and I say over medication, but the medication that they had been suggesting wasn't really all that effective. You can even go on the VA website now and look up the treatment and suicide statistics and see that current treatment only really helps maybe about a third of the people out there. And I have been a person who, I sought out treatment when I was in the military, and then I continued to seek it when I was out. And the care from the people was adequate. The solutions the people provided were totally inadequate. I've never been the type of person that subscribed to the belief that you can have a magic bullet, take a pill, do one thing, and then magically everything sorts itself out. The journey that I've kind of been on through, this healing process has kind of showed me that there's a lot of different components to it, and you have to address all of them equally at the same time. Otherwise, you end up having backslides and other issues. But that's why you have a good support system and things like that.
well, and that's what this podcast is about the new age of scientific research on other modalities that really are showing to make a difference. Now, of course, we always say we need more research, but meanwhile, people are dying. And the bottom line is, I've been a proponent of psychedelic medicine for many years, and ketamine and ibogaine and psilocybin and LSD and all this stuff. It got a bad rap early on. And I can understand why, because people abused it and used it. It's just like any medication that you give somebody. You give somebody a Valium, all of a sudden they're hung up on it. So there's a double-edged sword with any kind of medication. And like you said, there is no magic bullet. The psychedelics are not a magic bullet. It needs to be put together with integration therapy, ongoing therapy to help with all the behaviors that we created as addicts and people that are in depression. There's a lot of stuff. And then we're putting together, and Chris is part of this. He's on the team. We're putting together a treatment center in the Bahamas with ibogaine, with nutrient IVs, and all kinds of wellness programs. MDMA. You want to talk a little bit about that stuff, Chris, about MDMA and?
Oh yeah. So, I kind of have a spectrum of experience and knowledge on some of these substances. But, essentially, after having got out of the military, and, continue to grow and go through the challenges that I did, I ended up finding this company that I wanted to invest in. The name is New Mind. And they are the reason why I got with them was because they were essentially building the kind of treatment center that I would want to build on my own, which, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to or the knowledge, but that's why you team up with people who do know and do have the knowledge, like yourself. And so, basically, it's my view that all these different psychedelics, therapy things, that I consider them all to be tools, and each tool has a job. Right. So like, for example, ibogaine, the reason why we're focused on ibogaine primarily is because of its huge treatment benefits for addicts, as well as trauma and others. the way that the molecule binds to the receptors in your brain is some phenomenal feat of science and God, where in 24 hours, like you said, you have an addict who has been using consistently for years, and they no longer have that urge, at least at that point in time.
And then
And
detox.
then, what's that?
And then detox within 24 hours, which is unheard of.
No, I mean, when I read it in your book first, and then I went and confirmed the details, and I mean, it's crazy. And if you want to talk about magic bullets, it is about as close to a magic bullet as I've seen, as far as directly treating something with a direct outcome. That being said, there are other challenges with it. A lot of them go the same way as most psychedelics do, where it brings you inward, and it can bring up challenging things, but that's part of the healing process. Ibogaine specifically, one of the reasons why governments don't like it is because it has, I would say a mild cardiac risk. But as with any medication, if done in the proper setting, with the proper supervision, with the proper prep work, you can avoid any of those complications. And if you have somebody on site with the proper medication, you can address the issue on site at the time of.
I'm glad you brought that up, and now that goes into the pros and cons of psychedelic medicine, and that's what this podcast is about. It's not just about how great something is, but it's also how dangerous it could be, and also that it's not for everyone. Nothing works for everyone. I don't care who you are or what you say about these substances. Yeah. Baloney. We're all different, okay? But I will say it works for most people.
Well, I want to kick in for a second, because we always make this point, and I just want to kick in that understand that what we've been doing so far with the traditional treatments, John, and the even the self-help programs, we're still only saving 10 to 15% of the people.
Try 8 to 10%.
That's trying to be nice. Let's go 10% and be nice.
Okay.
10% of the people that means there's 90% of the people out there that doesn't work for. Now, that doesn't mean that psychedelics is going to work with that 90%. What if it worked with 30% of them? How many people are you going to save?
5%.
5%.
So let me tell you something.
That's for everybody.
I use while I'm real estate investing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's a measure that I use when I'm real estate investing. At what point is the profit low enough where at what point is the profit high enough where you would want to do it? So, say you have a deal that was $50,000 and now it costs you an extra $10,000 in renovation. So it costs $40,000, or you only get $40,000 profit. Well, would you still do it? Would you do it at 30? Would you do it at 20,000? Like, at what point would you, pull the ripcord and say, I don't want to invest? It's the same thing. It's the same thing with 90% of people who essentially are just customers for the insurance industry. At what number would it be worth it to
invest in this new technology?
5%. If we had an additional 5% go up, right, where now it's only 85%, that would be a 50% increase over the people who were already being, healed, if you want to even call it that. So it's asinine to me that we're not pursuing this more vigorously. And it's also frustrating for me, being, a servant of the government at one point in time. I'm familiar with the Scheduled Substance Act. It says in there in one of the first sentences that it has to have no, medicinal benefit. All of these psychedelics have a medicinal benefit, every single one of them.
Well, how it becomes a Schedule I drug, Chris?
What's that?
It means it's highly addictive. That's saying if you do Ibogaine, you want to hang out in hell repeatedly. I don't think so, because when you go into the Ibogaine journey, all right, you're going into your traumas. Okay, nobody wants to hang out in their traumas.
There is not a single psychedelic I think that I could imagine anyone getting addicted to. Now, yeah, sure, you have the off person who really likes acid.
Chris, people do get addicted to some psychedelics. They
right.
do. But you see, here's the deal: It's like anything in
But
the
I think that
world.
has to do with more the person than the substance.
No, the substance it's not the substance, it's the person. People get addicted to peanuts. I mean,
Right.
look, if you have an addictive personality disorder, you can get addiction. I work with Dr. Blum. He's a geneticist who found the main addiction gene, the DRD2 ALE1 variant gene. And what he discovered was that a catch-all for all these addictions is called RDS, reward deficiency syndrome, which means that you're chasing dopamine and serotonin. And those are the feel-good drugs you manufacture naturally. So that's what addicts do, okay? Because if you're genetically predisposed, all right, you're going to have lower receptor sites. You're not going to be absorbing dopamine. You're not creating dopamine and serotonin like a normal person would, whatever normal is, all right? So we searching for that buzz. A lot of times it comes in food, it comes in drugs, it comes in sex, it comes in all kinds of gambling, all kinds of work addiction, sex addiction. I mean, it can go on and on and on. And people say, well, how do you know I'm addicted? I say, well, it's simple. I'll give you a simple way. If you continue to use a substance or a behavior in spite of adverse consequences, maybe you need to take a look at it.
Yeah.
And that's a simple way of doing this.
Well, and you're also got to think about it. We're not talking about giving somebody psychedelics and sending them to an alley. We're talking about a medical setting where some of the addictive properties are mitigated by the care that you receive.
That's
correct?
Right. That's exactly right. Here's the problem. Now, here's the con, other than the pro. You got a lot of these people that are do-gooders, and I know their heart's in the right place. But the problem is they don't check people. Most of them don't check people medically, okay? Because you're going to have different medical problems that can cause a counteraction with these medications. Substances that are on board that don't match with these medications, these substances, these plant medicines. And you can cause cardiac arrest. You can cause all kinds of different problems. You can cause psychosis. So if you don't have it needs to be a medical model also, not just a altruistic model, okay? And you need people that know how to handle people on these medicines. And that's why they call it integration therapy. Regular therapists don't know how to really deal. They have an idea, but they don't know how to deal with people that use those substances. It's just like you can read a book about football, but until you play the game, you're really not going to get a good handle on what it's really like. So the bottom line is that this is the pushback on psychedelics. And you got people that are coming into this industry that only care, just like they did with the addiction industry. They only care about money, and they're putting people in and out, like the ketamine industry. They put everybody gets one shot, fits all with some of these places. Other places, they don't do any integration therapy. They don't set an intention, because you need an intention before you do any kind of psychedelics. Aftercare is mostly non-existent. Okay, no follow-up care. Like we said earlier, this is not a magic bullet, but it will put you on the right road to recovery. And not only that, and what they found out through PET scans and MRIs and all this other kind of stuff, that these medicines grow new connections in the brain. Now, the new connection in the brain, okay, needs to be nurtured. And how do you nurture? It's just like a plant, a seedling. Water, sunlight, make sure that soil is proper. Well, it's the same thing with this. Going to self-help groups, having a therapist, eating right, exercising. Okay, all of these different things that create wellness. You don't just do a pill, or you don't just do a psychedelic drug and say, oh, I'm fixed. That's the misnomer that some people don't understand. Yes, you may feel like you're fixed in the beginning, but remember something. If you don't support it, that little seedling diminishes and dies. So
it's funny that you use that analogy to describe it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, life keeps changing. We keep changing. The cells rejuvenate themselves. They change every 7 years in our body. And they also change daily. Okay. But you have one massive change in 7 years. So things come up. People die. You get, you have trauma. Your dog dies. Your husband cheats on you. Your wife cheats on you. You get trauma with different trauma. You get molested. Life just keeps going on. So the work keeps going on. You don't just do the work. I go to the gym. All right, so I go to the gym for a month. Now I'm in shape. Okay, I don't have to go anymore. Well, you know how ridiculous that is.
Yeah, well, so what you're kind of talking about is something I've had thoughts about lately, and there needs to be some sort of consciousness change around how this is all described between each other or amongst ourselves, because like I have a saying that if you're standing still, you're moving backwards. And why is that? Because if you're standing still and life is going this way, well, guess what? You're moving further and further away from where life is going. So you have to continue to grow.
You know what? It's like building a house, Chris. Okay, these are tools. You don't use one tool to build a house.
No.
Right? You got a hammer, you got a screwdriver, you got a drill, it's the same thing.
Listen, you can build a house with a hammer and nothing but it is going to be rough. It is going to be rough.
I wouldn't want to live in it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to live in it either, unless it was maybe a log cabin. But
many people are living in their home, which is their body, with just a hammer. Okay, right. They don't eat right. Our food supply stinks. Our water supply isn't any good. You don't exercise.
Now, yes, you're correct. A lot of those things people can do something about, but still choose not to. And I feel like if we can all have this understanding that we have to put in a little bit of work to be able to get something out of all this, I think it'll do people a lot more good, because there are people out there who go their entire lives not thinking that they've never experienced depression, and I don't think that that's possible. Life. People die, people, all sorts of things happen in life.
Don't know and don't identify depression. They'll identify anxiety, but depression, they don't understand the mechanism of action.
Right.
For some people, what real depression is, they don't want to get out of bed. They hide under the covers. Okay. They don't want to engage with things that they used to like, and they don't no longer do that. All right. They try to not, hang out with any people. They want to isolate. They don't eat, enough food. I mean, it could go on and on and on. And what happens is people think they're hopeless and helpless, and then they get on these medications. Look, I'm for whatever.
They think that because they're acting that way. And if they make that mental switch in their mind to not act that way, now all of a sudden you're catching back up with life going the other direction.
Right. But you know what? Here's the problem. Our society today, okay, they don't want to work. People want to get paid a high salary, but they don't want to work. All right.
Well, I mean,
people are not disciplined enough.
And people want to get
the military creates discipline and structure. Most people here, they're not structured. They're running around like, oh, I'll take this pill. I got a headache. Oh, I'll take this pill. I want to lose weight. Oh, no, people don't want to put in the effort.
Well, and so that's what I'm saying is we need to have a raise in our awareness where we accept that there is some level of work and participation that needs to happen. And then once you make that subtle shift, now all of a sudden, depression doesn't become it changes its definition from, being this, state that you end up in for an indefinite amount of time to I'm feeling down and I'm going to go talk to the people and ingest the substances and take part in the integration that I need to understand what's going on in my world and then continue, as opposed to what people do now, which is just, I'm just going to white knuckle life. I'm going to white knuckle it till the end. And then you wake up and you're 72 and you don't know why you were working the job you worked, and you don't know why your body's falling apart on you. And where do I start? My whole life is imploding. Well, you can fix it.
Well, here's the deal. What most people don't understand, where the pressure comes from. Everybody thinks it's only situational. Okay, you can have a low thyroid. You can have depression, anxiety, leaky gut, H. pylori infection. Look this up, guys. Don't believe me. Go look it up. Low testosterone, even high testosterone.
Jordan Peterson talks about diet.
Injuries.
Jordan Peterson talks about diet. He says that he has depressed clients come to him all the time, and he says, "When was the last time you ate a full meal?" And hardly any of them ever say that they've eaten even a meal, right? Oh, I had a rice cake here, I ate an egg there. And his first prescription is go eat something. You know what I mean? And tell me how you feel after that. It's crazy how much control you actually have.
Well, that's why I do these podcasts. I want to inform people. People say, well, I don't have money to do certain things. Baloney. You can do push-ups, you can do sit-ups, you can do jumping jacks for exercise. All right. Even Burger King has salads and stuff like that. So if you make better choices in your food, okay, you'll have better outcomes, number one. Water is extremely important. We're made of what, 70, 90% water? Okay, liquid. Bottom line is people don't drink enough water. And then what kind of water are we drinking? So you got to educate yourself. And, you know, there's a lot of good education material out there.
There's a lot of good information. I mean, but there's also a lot
too. So you got to learn
information.
Yeah.
So before we get to the end, I want to make sure we start to wrap some of this up. I'm taking from what both of you guys are saying. Maybe we can put this in kind of layman's terms, that the use of psychedelics and that kind of medicated assistance, it opens the door for the possibility to change. It itself does not cure you.
No.
Correct.
So I want to make sure that's very clear. It opens the door so that you can get the help you need, but it is not a miracle cure.
It opens the door. You have to walk through it.
Right.
You don't have,
and you got to be guided therapeutically. You guys were saying it. You can't just give somebody this stuff and expect them to figure out how to help themselves. Then you've got to be backing up with therapy, right, John?
It's all about a mindset. And what psychedelics do, it resets your neurotransmitters in your brain. But you got to nurture that reset. It's like, look, guys, it's like if you ever walked in the woods and you see a path, and the path is usually sandy, and then you see grass or plants on either side, right? But if nobody walks in that path anymore, they overgrow it, and then you lose that path. Well, it's the same thing in your brain. You have to nurture that brain. And you nurture it by different modalities and different food substances and different exercise. All of this stuff, look, God, whatever God is to anybody out there, blessed us, gave us the gift of life. It's what you do with that life is you give back to the Creator, whatever that is to you. So listen, if you don't take care of this, most people take care of their car better than they take care of their body.
That's a true story. That's a truth. Now, listen, before we wrap up, I'd really like to know, what are you guys working on, or how much? I know you can't share everything because you're building something, but what are you guys working on, and what do you hope to achieve with what you're trying to do?
I want to change the way we do treatment. I want to introduce the insurance companies into understanding that they'll save money, okay, instead of having people going this revolving door over and over and over again until they die. So that's my goal, is to change the way treatment is in the world today. And I really know how to do it because I base it on science and evidence. I don't base it on somebody saying it works.
So I would piggyback off that, and I would say I might word it a little differently, but that's essentially what I'm trying to do as well. John's got way more experience in this industry than I do, but I still came to it with the same kind of intention where I see a lot of problems going on around us, and I don't think that regulating and asking the government to make rules for us is the way forward. I think the way forward is for people to step up and show the right way of doing it, because we're capable of it. We can document it, we can prove it. And I think that if we do that, then we have a shot at changing the way that business is currently done. because I don't like the way the business is currently done. And
Absolutely. And remember, safety is primary. Okay. So you have to do a thorough examination prior to doing any of these substances, making sure people are not schizophrenic, they don't have dissociative disorders, maybe their heart is not working right, the liver, the kidneys. You have to make sure people can do this. Okay. You can't just throw people into a forest and say, oh, the shaman is going to bless you. Give me a break already, man. All right. That may be the case. They may do some wonderful work, but I want to know who I'm working with. I don't want to kill somebody because I'm trying to help somebody.
Chris, can we make an assumption? You'd mentioned early at the very beginning about the VA and saying that the VA has made some good strides, but we all know they've got a long way to go to be
a long way.
The VA should be the greatest funded and the most forward-thinking operation on the planet because of who they serve. They should be. They actually fall well below drive-in clinics. I mean, they're
politicized.
They're politicized. Are you hoping that the stuff that you're doing moving forward, that you're going to be able to pay that back to the VA and maybe help them too?
That's a good question. I just got tingles because I hadn't even thought about that for today. But yes, as a matter of fact, yes. I've tried going down to the Nashville VA where I get treated to try and kind of start conversations down there. But ultimately, what I'd like to do is I would like to take the model that we're creating, and I would like to be able to go to active duty units as well as the VA.
That's why we need outcome studies and research. When you have outcome studies and research done by a legitimate company,
there's a huge body of work on a lot of that stuff already.
I know.
It just takes the right packaging and delivery of it.
You got it right on the money. It's called marketing.
Correct. Absolutely. And so I would like to be able to, create my own body of evidence and then present that to them. So that way, all they have to do is copy and paste. And maybe if they're lucky, they'll contract our services. I don't know, but I would absolutely like to be able to influence change there.
I brought it up because I wanted to make people clear on that you had stated your intention from the beginning. I wanted to clear that somebody's intention going into this kind of work is really important. John made you a great point. A lot of people get into this with the best of ideas and they want to do the right things, but then they fall off and they take shortcuts and then they're like, well, I can't afford that, so I'll just do that. But you're playing with people's lives. But if your intention is to truly be of service to either the community of, the veterans, to addiction and mental health, then you will not take shortcuts. You'll do everything you have to do. And you keep that intention up front.
Unfortunately, in the addiction industry, the mental health industry, people want to make money off the sick and suffering. It's okay to make money if you're doing the right work and you're doing the right job. There's nothing wrong with making money for the labor that you put in. Okay. But primary has to be helping people. Okay. I learned in life, if you help people, you'll make money.
So I've read some books from Simon Sinek, Find Your Why, things like that. Gary Keller, they all these successful people, business people, they all talk about that. If you stop worrying about the money and you start focusing on the people, whether it's in your organization or your clients and customers, then 100%. The money will come. So just worry about your process, worry about what you're delivering, worry about what's actually important, which is what you're delivering to the people. And in our case, if we do a thorough intake and we have a tried and true process of applicating the medicine, and then an integration and therapy aftercare program. I mean, there's not much else you can do.
That's the best we can do. We can't force people to do the right thing. But
I mean, even in the aftercare, we don't even know if those people will call. I mean, aftercare programs usually have a lot of success, at least from what I've seen. But it all depends on that if the organization doesn't put it out, then the people won't actually end up following through with it. But if the organization has we're meeting on this day at this time and we're doing this, then you have people showing up repeatedly and consistently because they're invested in themselves. They're invested in their own healing. They're invested in their community of people who are around them, and it makes them uplift. The act of uplifting themselves is uplifting others, which uplifts themselves. It's a feedback loop, but it's a positive feedback loop that goes up.
Absolutely. That's kind of think
we're up against it. Chris, I want to thank you so much for taking some time. Christopher Labonte.
You're the man, Chris. You're the man.
Thanks,
and once again, thank you for being in the military and being our protector, to moving into being our explorer, our guy who wants to go out there and find new ways. From our protector to our explorer, we thank you for both things that you've been doing with your life. It means something. It does mean something.
Thanks.
And of course, we look forward to having a great new year. Hopefully you will as well. And I'm sure as this project progresses, we'll spend more time talking about it, John. Maybe have Chris back.
So we're raising money now for it. And everybody's like a little skittish about putting money into things,
It's I think we still have the COVID trauma going on with people's wallets, but hopefully that'll lessen up.
Well, and we can raise enough money. We can do what this project is going. Chris put money in, other people have done things to make this get to where we are. And it's going to be really cool. So if anybody out there is interested, contact us. Go to my website.
Absolutely.
You see it's called NuMind, NuMind. And
the website's NuMind.
The program and doing all that. And Chris is helping. And we got a team, guys.
All right.
All righty.
So for our guest, Chris Labonte, and of course, our host, John Giordano, I'm your co-host, Scott Jones. I want to thank you for joining us today. Remind you, please like this channel, share it with your friends, and hit the like button. And leave comments, because we do look at those when on the format that you're watching. Please leave your comments. We'll catch you next time right here on the Psychedelic Treatment Podcast.
Thanks, Scott.